The work that you're doing now with Neurozine, I'd love to talk about, the why of all these different things and the way that it was described to me once with things like trauma that people go through at a childhood level. It's very much like pages of a book. When you're trying to work with someone, you're almost trying to add in a new page of good to remove some of the pages of trauma there. So it's a long process rather than, again, clicking your fingers. And I know with your app and the work that you're doing, you've got so many activities and exercises that help people with that. Do you want to give us a broader overview of what you do with Neurozine and what the problem that you wanted to solve is and why you felt like it fell on your shoulders to do it?
The reality of it is I'll never forget it. There was a young, 15-year-old that had suffered, not recently, had suffered from, which we only found out later, he was having typical sorts of learning issues, anxiety issues. His parents were worried about depression. He was a family friend. And we went and, scanned this kid. There was a multitude of a history of traumatic brain injury. And so there was all this stuff in there that was like, wow, we could tell this kid till the cows come home to meditate and be socially better at school and do all these things. He does not have the tools at this moment to do it. So how do we just go back to those fundamentals? How do we go and understand that, the brain is this amazing, self-organizing, dynamic, interconnected organ. And yet what we're doing is we're just kind of treating it from a behavioral perspective, not so much a biological one. And again, I'm not against the behavioral side. I think there's some phenomenal people that are working on that behavioral side. But my choice was to say, I'm taking a very mechanistic, almost very fundamental, sometimes we'll call it radically fundamental approach to saying, how do we give these people the tools that they need to be able to be successful from wherever they are to wherever they need to go? So yeah, I think a lot of that was from the clinical side into then the sort of really research-based side. You don't need to do a ton of things all at one moment in time, but just being able to provide direction and say, okay, well, there may be an understanding as to why this is happening that could be based on biology, and let's put a plan forward together to be able to kind of address it. So that's kind of where Neurozine had emerged from, funny enough, prior to the pandemic. And then because of the pandemic and things along those lines, people have been a lot more open to the idea of technology being this amazing little bridge into the world of healthcare. But it's still something that a lot of us really struggle with, but something that we're working towards trying to address.